Washington mornings on the Mall. At AM 630. WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL, where Washington comes to talk. Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman. And on the line is Bill Kristol, who is the editor, of course, of the Weekly Standard, man you often see on the Fox News channel. Bill, good to have you here. I know that you were someone who had really been in the court of one Paul Ryan. I suppose you're very pleased. Tell me how you feel today.
I'm a cheerful guy today, Brian. And Brian, it's a good morning, I think, for America, honestly. We're going to have a much better presidential campaign, a much higher level debate than we would have had if the Democrats will allow us to have a serious substantive debate instead of just caricaturing Paul Ryan's budget as they've been caricaturing so much. But I feel as a Romney supporter, I'm much cheered up, very much cheered up, and as a conservative, I think we'll have a real substantive campaign.
All right, but already the Democrats are vilifying Paul Ryan. They're going to put up that ad of Ryan pushing Granny over the cliff in a wheelchair. How do you combat that? I mean, clearly right now, if you look at Paul Ryan, he's sort of a blank slate to many Americans. Right. So each side will try to paint a portrait of him. We know what portrait the Democrats are going to portray.
Yeah, you combat it, I think, if you're the Romney campaign and if you're the Republicans, by going on the offensive. The thing that worries me the most is that the Romney campaign has a little bit of a tendency to go defensive, to huddle down. Oh, it's not that bad. We're not that mean. You know, we're only a little bit mean. We're not really mean. That's not the way to go. You know who's pushing Granny? If Granny's going over a cliff, it's because of current Medicare policies. It's because of President Obama's budget. The Medicare actuaries say Medicare is going broke. That's not Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan's budget has not become law. The Democrats control Congress and then the presidency. So it's current policies that are bankrupting us. Paul Ryan has proposed a solution. President Obama hasn't. So I think really Republicans need to go on the offensive. It's Ryan's budget that saves Medicare and Social Security, that saves the safety net, and reforms these programs to get our federal government under control, to get entitlements under control, to get the deficit down so we can have economic growth again. So I think they need to aggressively make that argument, not sit back, not be parrying, the thrusts of the Democrats, but really go on the offensive.
What did you make, though, of last night, the interview on 60 Minutes where Paul Ryan and Mitt Romney are standing next to each other, and Mitt Romney made it clear that we're running on the Romney budget?
Well, that's fine. Obviously, that's the case. He's the presidential candidate. There are some small differences in their plans, and Ryan himself has adjusted his plan, as you would expect him to, each year, that because of changing circumstances. So I have no problem with that, unless it means that Romney's getting cute and thinking that, gee, maybe I can sort of tamp down the criticism a little. The criticism's coming. This is the assault, and either you go back, you fight back, you defend yourself, and you counter-assault, or I think they're going to look very weak. The truth is, and this is something conservatives and Republicans don't like to acknowledge, Romney was losing. I mean, if you talk privately to people who are doing polls and focus groups in key states like Ohio, and here in Virginia too, incidentally, the numbers were turning worse for Romney as the assault on Bain Capital and the tax returns heated up. And, as importantly, the Romney campaign seemed to have very little to say. What was the Romney agenda? How is Romney getting us out of this fix? Finally, Republicans now have a positive agenda to run on. It's not just that President Obama hasn't been doing a very good job. It's that Republicans have a plan to fix these problems. It's a little bit of a tough plan, but you got to tell the truth. We're going to have to take some tough measures, but it's ultimately a plan that leaves us better off. If you fix your house, which is leaks and trees coming through the roof, as ours did during the storm there, it's unpleasant to have to spend a little money to fix the roof, but you're better off than not fixing it. I mean, that's the point they've got to make.
But is America ready to have that discussion? I mean, you and I would probably agree that if we don't have that discussion, we're headed down the road to ruin. We're headed down the road. We're going to be the next Greece. But is America ready to take its medicine and understand that we have to deal with these issues?
Well, if they're not, the Republicans will lose. But here's the good news. In state after state, Republican candidates have run pretty candidly on this kind of message at the state level, here in Virginia, but also in New Jersey and Wisconsin and Louisiana, Indiana. Republican governors have said we've got to downsize government, we can preserve the safety net, but we've got to reform the way things are done. And it's played pretty well politically. I think the voters are a little more grown up, a little more responsible, a little more willing to hear the truth than some of the commentators think.
Is it a referendum on the president still, or is it a referendum on Paul Ryan's budget and Mitt Romney's idea moving forward?
It was never only going to be, I think it was a myth of political kind of consultant types. There's never only going to be a referendum on the president. The voters aren't stupid. They know they're making a choice going forward. They're capable of saying, President Obama, yeah, he's not doing that great. This is what they were saying 2 weeks ago. One guy who did focus groups told me. But they were saying 2 weeks ago was, President Obama is not so great. You know, he seems a little out of his depth. But, God, at least he kind of cares about us, and he kind of knows what we're going through, and he's trying to do something. Romney just seems clueless. That's what swing voters were saying 2 weeks ago. So you got to give them a choice. You got to give them a positive agenda going forward. And I think that's what the Ryan pick allows for the Romney campaign now. If the Romney campaign sticks to its guns and keeps pushing the message forward, if they just go back into a defensive crouch, then of course the Ryan pick won't make much difference.
Big crowds in North Carolina. There were big crowds in Wisconsin. That's really all we have to go on because there hadn't been enough polling to know whether or not this is a game changer. What's your sense of it?
We won't know for a while because this takes time. You know, this is the whole point is if they keep this thrust up, I think it can be a game changer. But like anything else, it would be like if your house had you can't just patch up the hole and say, okay, everything's done. You've got to fix the problem. And the Romney campaign has to view the Ryan pick as the beginning of a process of rolling out a strategy of convincing Americans that Republicans, that Romney and Ryan have a plan to fix the problems that are ailing this country.
Do you think the pick of Ryan helps in any specific demographic or specific area? Maybe more in Ohio, in the Midwest?
Yeah, I think a little bit in the Midwest. I think it puts Wisconsin in play. And I would say younger voters. The Republican ticket is now younger
yes.
than the Democratic ticket. That's not the usual case. That's a good thing. If you talk to younger voters, I think they can identify with Ryan. When he talks about his kids and thinking about their future, it has a kind of personal immediacy that it doesn't have when, honestly, when someone in his 60s talks about that kind of thing.
Right.
We actually have picked up on a little of that here this morning from our callers.
That's good to hear. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Before we let you go, Sarah Palin won't make a speech at the convention. Do you think that's the wise move?
I don't know. Well, the speeches at the convention don't really matter, except for the presidential and to some degree the vice presidential. So I wouldn't worry too much about the other speakers. I'm a little worried about the Nats winning streak going down yesterday. but it'll be like, let me put it this way: this is the price. If the Romney Ryan campaign can now win the next 8 games and then lose one,
that's right.
When their pitchers having has an upset stomach, I guess they'll be okay. So I'm cheerful about the Nats and cheerful about Romney Ryan.
All right, sounds good, Bill. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Thanks.
Good talking to you guys.
Bill Kristol, the editor of the Weekly Standard. Thanks for joining us.